Go ahead and call this meeting to order. Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Honorable Mayor Shaver,
Here.
Councilmember Urdiales,
Here.
Councilmember Shasso,
Here.
Councilmember Howe,
Here.
Councilmember Anderson,
He's excused. He had a medical today.
Councilmember Deal,
Here.
Councilmember Lindell.
He's still recouping from his surgery. Okay, first item on our agenda this evening is approval of the minutes from our July 21st, 2020 council regular meeting.
Honorable Mayor Shaver, a draft copy of the July 21, 2020 meeting minutes was included in the packet and is presented for your approval by resolution.
Has everybody had a chance to review them? Are there any questions, comments, or changes?
No, sir.
If there are none, I would entertain a resolution approving.
Your Honor, I offer a resolution to approve the minutes from our July 21st regular city council meeting.
Second.
I have a resolution by Allison Howe, a second by Doug Soshow. Vote by roll call.
That resolution carries unanimously with council members Lindell and Anderson being absent.
Okay, next on our agenda is the reading of a proclamation designating August as Child Support Awareness Month. Whereas Morgan County recognizes that every child matters and joins the nation in recognizing August as Child Support Awareness Month, and whereas child support is a vital source of income for households in Morgan County, many of them low-income families, and whereas strengthening families improves the lives of children by promoting their safety and well-being and providing economic security. And whereas Morgan County applauds the parents who support their children and make their child support payments consistently to care for them. And whereas child support professionals are important assets to the county, working in collaboration with parents and other community partners to ensure that children and families receive quality service. And whereas it is important to increase public awareness of the child support program through outreach and education to reinforce the position that all parents must take responsibility for the financial, emotional, and physical support of their children. Now, therefore, I, Ron Shaver, Mayor of the City of Fort Morgan, State of Colorado, do hereby proclaim the month of August as Child Support Awareness Month. We join advocates and communities across the country in taking action to support August as Child Support Awareness Month, and each day of the year is an opportunity to create change for the future. In witness hereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the official seal of the City of Fort Morgan, Colorado, to be affixed this, the 4th day of August, 2020. Is there somebody here that received this, or?
Doesn't look like it, Your Honor.
Okay. We'll get it to them at a later time. Next is a presentation on appointments for the Historic Preservation Board. Councilmember Deal.
Yes, Barbara Keenan, many of you know her, applied to our board. She's been a school teacher for years. She's a great historian. We work together a lot. She was on the board a few years back, but got busy with the Heritage Foundation, so she reapplied, and she'll be great, a great asset. So I offer a resolution.
Motion.
It's by motion, okay. I offer a motion to appoint Barbara Keenan to the Historic Preservation Board.
Second?
I have a motion by Lynn Deal and a second by Allison Howe to appoint Barbara Keenan to the Historic Preservation Board. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries with Lindell and Anderson absent. Next is an introduction and presentation by Kristen Clifford Basil, our Morgan County Economic Development Corporation. Welcome.
Thank you for having me tonight. I would first like to thank you for your reinvestment in Morgan County Economic Development Corporation. Your contribution has provided MCEDC the opportunity to continue operating through the pandemic. I'm glad we've been able to formalize a partnership between the City of Fort Morgan and MCEDC. So again, I want to take this opportunity to publicly thank you for your investment. Moving forward, I want to make sure you know that I'm here as a resource and a partner, not just to Sarah, whom I've enjoyed getting to know during the Reopen Safe, Reopen Strong grant program, and getting to know Steve as well recently, but for you, the City of Fort Morgan as a whole. I look forward to working with each of you and getting to know you all in the near future. I unfortunately don't have a presentation, but if you have any questions for me at this time, I'm here, or my email and phone number are available. Steve can get those to you as well. So.
It's nice to put a face with a name. Well, it's good to see that you're taking such a vested interest in the development of economics and in Morgan County, and working with Sarah and Steve and the city. It's a collaboration that kind of had some rough times in the past, but I think that it's moving forward and hopefully gonna be a good partnership with the rest of the cities and communities in Morgan County with economic development.
I'm excited, and for those of you that don't know, I did grow up in Eastern Colorado, so I have roots here, and I have 3 young boys that I am excited to raise in Morgan County and hopefully convince them to come back. So my goal is to create a home for them to come back to. So.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi.
Thank you.
Were you commenting or asking a question?
No.
Okay, just general. Hi, Kristen, my name's Allie. I just want to hear your vision. Like, what are you so excited about? What do you want to see in 5 years for Morgan County, and specifically our relationship as a municipality and your organization?
Well, I'd like to see the pandemic gone in our past. Housing and childcare are a big concern of mine right now, especially for the economic health and ability to develop Morgan County and bring people here, and for our future generations to stay and have families. So those are really my focus in collaborating as a regional effort to make those things happen. So I organized today actually a meeting with the city managers, so we'll be meeting weekly, maybe bi-weekly, and just figuring out what we can do regionally to really help give Morgan County the boost it needs and what needs to happen locally as well.
Great.
Kristen, I have had the pleasure of meeting with you several times and getting acquainted with you. Love all your ideas. And I have sat in on the roundtables, and they have been wonderful. Especially through the pandemic, there's a lot of information there with the health department and Merle Roads and different people in the community, the businesses. So it's very educational to sit in on, and I'm happy to be a part of that. I'm impressed with it and look forward to working with you too.
Well, thank you. They'll be continuing for the near future. So, yeah.
Anybody else have any questions for Kristen or have not met her?
Well, Your Honor, just to comment that I did have the opportunity to meet with Kristen over lunch last week, and we had a great conversation, and excited about working with her, and she was able to get a meeting set up today with folks from Wiggins and Brush and myself, and so we're excited to start those meetings and have those conversations. So it's great to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Very good. Thanks, Kristen.
And Your Honor, I forgot.
Oh, we need one more, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Don't apologize, you're good.
Let's see.
She won't know, she won't see this.
You want me to go ahead? Or do you want me to, when do you want to plug me back in? Or do you want to
Let's
unplug
just
me?
do it right now.
Okay. Okay, we had another applicant for the Preservation Board. She's been on the last few years, so she's reapplying. And she loves old houses and history. And she was one person that has done a lot of research that helps me out. So I'm glad to. So I move to appoint Vicki Foy to the Historic Preservation Board to reappoint her.
Second?
Once again, I have a motion by Lynn Deal, a second by Allison Howe for the appointment of Vicki Foy to the Historic Preservation Board, which is item 5. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is a public hearing to consider an application for a variance from Chapter 20, Article 6, Section 20-6-70 of the Fort Morgan Municipal Code to utilize on-street diagonal parking for 9 spaces to count towards required off-street parking. This is a public hearing. Please keep public comment to the issues before council. Each speaker is asked to limit comment time to 3 minutes unless a speaker represents a group of citizens, in which event additional time may be allocated. Please respect these limitations. I reserve the right to limit public comment that is inappropriate under these guidelines and otherwise improper. I also reserve the right to limit testimony or questioning that is repetitive, cumulative, argumentative, or not pertinent to the issues, and to set a limit on the duration of testimony if I deem it necessary in light of the number of persons who have signed up to testify. First is the legal notice. Ms. Gugamas, was the hearing properly noticed?
Yes, Your Honor, it was published in the local newspaper on July 16th, 2020.
Next is presentation of the application. Mr. Nation.
Good evening, council.
Hi, Brent.
First one of this type for me, so bear with me. I'm sure Nina will help me through this. So what we have tonight is we have a piece of property that's in a residential zone that would like to take the single-family dwelling that is currently there and put back in a triplex type of setup. That is not what's in question. That's allowed for underneath that zoning, but that request would cause them not to meet the parking requirements that we have within our code. So what you have in front of you tonight is you acting as the variance board to see if the applicant can have a variance that would allow them to use off-street parking in place of what would be, spelled out under the code as being on, or they want to use on-street parking instead of having the availability of off-street parking. So with the variance, a little bit different. What you have in their packet tonight, you'll see the applicant has addressed, there are 7 items that you have to address with a variance. And so each of those, they've gone through and tried to spell out why, like the first one talks about what type of hardship this is to be in the situation. The second one has to do with if this exists in other areas of the same zone. And so they've gone through and they've tried to address all those. A lot of it has to do with the fact that we seem to have this housing shortage, and they're trying to meet the demand of the housing shortage that we have in our community. And so they're hoping that a variance for their parking requirements will help us get to a little bit of help within the that situation we have. So each of those 7 things is spelled out in the packet as they put together, and we've reviewed those and looked at those and are going see that those are meeting those 7 criteria. We've also included numerous other parts of the code that spell out the parking requirements, the variance process. So you have all of that in front of you tonight. They have also worked with Epic Design and prepared a site plan that shows how the property would be set up. And it also shows how the total of 9 spaces would be allocated. The requirement is only for 6 spaces. They have enough property in front of their location that they could actually stripe 9 spots, and that's what they're proposing to do. They would like to provide as much diagonal parking in that location that they can. So just the more the better, they felt. And so since they have that much frontage, they would like to go ahead and propose to stripe the 9 spots. They would have 1 designated ADA spot. They've made sure that they meet the setbacks at the corner, so we don't have any sight distance issues on the corner. We've gone through the public notice. We put the signs up. We send out cards to the people that are within 300 feet of this property. At the time of the memo, I had 4 people inquire. They all were basically more curious about what was happening to the property and not necessarily what the variance request was. One of them did express, they're all like, well, it might fit a little bit better if it was a duplex, but okay, I guess I don't know. I don't really have any issue with the variance. I did have, in the last few days, the next door neighbor call me.
To the west?
Yes, to the west. Had a long conversation with him on the phone. It was opposed to it when we first started talking about it. He actually came down to my office. We sat down with the drawings. That helped him a lot. And he thought about it and kind of scoped everything out once he had the picture in his hands. And he called me back a couple hours ago and actually said that he was perfectly fine with it. Now that since he had all the information, he felt that the variance was acceptable to him. So he was one that was not included in the memo. So that was all the comments that I had in my office. Let's see, as I indicated, we've provided the parts of the code that are relevant to this. If council decides to move forward and approve the variance, there are a couple requests that we would put in place with this. We would like it to run in perpetuity with the proposed structure. If the triplex would burn down and they would just go back with a single family house or something in the future, we didn't feel it was necessary to keep the off-street or the on-street parking numbers up. They could then readdress the parking situation with a new structure. Then the next 2 are kind of just the technical ones. We want the spots to meet our code when it comes to the size of diagonal parking. Then we'll want them to stripe it according to how we do. We use the thermoplastics now that we put down and heat them and stick them to the asphalt. And then the 4th one, this one we had a little bit of a conversation on just today, and the applicant would like to request that they maintain an exclusive right of the parking spots to their property. And originally we had indicated in the memo that we wanted it to be non-exclusive. We've kind of done that, I know, in a couple other spots, but the applicant, and I'll let them speak to it a little bit more, but they did feel because of like Bobstock and some of our downtown uses of the park, that if they didn't have the exclusive use to those parking spots, they might end up with residents that just end up not having a parking spot anywhere near their residence while some of our weekend events are taking place during the weekends around here. So I told them that I would not be opposed to that. I understood that logic. And so with that was everything that's in the presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions on that.
Brent,
The adjacent property to the west will still be parallel park?
Yeah, it would be the only little chunk left
Right.
on that block that would be parallel parking, and he, as a property owner, he was fine with that.
Okay. And the proprietary, we didn't do that with the other for Calvary, did we? when we did the parking.
Oh, what did, no.
No, those are not exclusive to Calvary.
Yeah.
Yep.
You said we've done it someplace else?
We've not made them exclusive. That's why I ended up putting it in the memo. And so, but in this case, talking to them earlier, I could understand why they would ask for that, just because of the
Yeah.
proximity to the park.
Just a point of procedure, I mean, we can go into that, but
Yeah.
they're asking for a variance. It has nothing to do with whether our streets are exclusive or not exclusive. In terms of, I mean, I don't think that's, should be decided today.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with the staff condition number 4, but to make the next decision that we're going to give city street or right-of-way to a private property, that's not within the realm of a variance, unless you or Steve disagree.
No, I think the variance request is for the off-street parking requirement. That's
Right.
what we're looking for tonight is a variance to that specific criteria.
Right.
They want to utilize on-street parking, but,
Right.
Yeah.
I think it fits well with across the street, it's Dr. Keller's office, and that's parallel, so I think it's very congenial to the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's the only portion of that between those two streets that isn't that and the neighbor to the west. They're still the only parallel parking that exists on that block.
You still have diagonal in front though, right? So you can park 2 cars, 3 cars up front too.
Yeah.
So I think this will be addressing just the off-street parking for the variance as
Okay.
opposed to the proprietary parking requirements.
So per the variance, they're asking for 5 off-street diagonal parking, and for the diagram, there's 9 with the ADA parking, right?
Yeah, they actually need 6 under the request.
Under the request,
Yep.
6 they need.
Yep.
And then, so they're saying they're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, counting ADA.
Yeah, they would do 3 extras while they're striping that area. They would go ahead and stripe those other ones diagonal along with the 6 that they need to do.
Okay.
Kind of goes with the rest of the entire block, really.
Yeah, it does.
My concern is if other people start buying lots and they're removing homes and they want off-street parking, and they come, they're gonna ask for variance, and this is gonna be, they're always gonna start pointing at this project. And I'm sure there's people that have been denied off-street parking variances and were not allowed to build their projects in the past. So I think, again, we got Centerpoint, we made them do off-street parking. There's the duplexes that are on Beaver, they have off-street parking in the back, and they built legal in the 30s. Keller's office has off-street parking and diagonal parking. I just feel that they want 1.5, they said they're gonna do 9. I just think it's a slippery slope of other people coming back and wanting to do this as well. Look at like businesses, they're gonna come to us and want off-street parking. I think it's just gonna it's gonna snowball, in my opinion, from here.
Well, but this is one area that's
Yes.
conducive, that already has diagonal
Right.
parking both sides of the streets and the
Right.
street width. I mean, we can't do diagonal in residential areas and such as that. I understand and I agree with what you're saying on there, but in looking at this from the diagrams and that, I think it's conducive to what's in the neighborhood and area. I mean, this is there's gonna be one small part in there, to me, carry it to the alleyway, but that's not their
Yeah.
property front, so.
Yeah, each one of these will be different, and you'd have to look at the street size and the neighborhood, but this one fits very well, in my opinion. Just its location off of downtown, and I think it works real well.
I think, Brian, what you're saying is you're just giving exclusive rights to those parking spots for residents. That's what you're not down with, but you might be down with the diagonal parking?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that's definitely another process we have to talk through that's
Yeah,
not
so,
part of that.
using a public right-of-way for a private purpose exclusive, I would highly not recommend that, especially not the variance.
Yep.
That's a very lucrative value that the city is giving. But right now, we're talking about a variance. So I would caution you to, I know we'll let the applicant speak and we'll go through the public hearing process, but we're going through the you're looking at the 7 criteria and whether you're allowing them to utilize this as their parking. It's a whole nother step to give your city right-of-way an exclusive use, which it sounds like we don't do that with anyone else. So those are 2 separate conversations, so I think we should keep it separate. Let's talk about, I think we should follow the procedure and see whether the 7 criteria have been met for the variance, and then deliberate as to the conditions that are listed.
For the diagram, there's 9 with the ADA. For the request, there's 6. Can we change the request to 9 and do it that way? So then we're sure that 9 diagonals will be there. 'Cause for this, they only have to do 6. Correct? How it's written?
I would think your approval would be, you would just,
For the 9.
you would make the approval for the 9.
Okay.
Property.
Yep.
And he's gonna take care of the tab on the first, right? And then we
Yeah,
tear up the
they'll-
streets, we pick it, we fix it the next time,
So,
right?
Yeah, that's how we handled
Yeah, okay.
Calvary's
Yeah.
request,
Okay.
was the applicant was required to initially stripe it, and then our crews, during their routine maintenance of the streets, would
Okay.
take care of it going forward.
Okay.
That's why we asked for thermoplastic. It lasts a lot longer.
Do we take care of Keller's across the street?
We take care of all the on-street parking striping when we do our maintenance, yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
If we could just talk, this is a public hearing for a very specific property. If we can keep it to this property, follow the process, and also, again, look at the criteria that's listed.
Yeah, we're not even going to be discussing the proprietary parking. This is,
That had nothing to do with it.
right. So,
Thanks, Nina.
You're welcome.
are there any other questions regarding this parking variance for Mr. Nation?
and the owner is here and the owner's rep is both here, so
Okay,
you've got all kinds of people to ask further questions of.
okay.
We're done bugging you, Brent. We might bring you up later, but.
Okay, I'll stand in the back.
Thanks, Brent.
Hi.
Next are comments by the applicant. Do you wish to address the council? Mr. Cromwell, would you sign in on the
Sure.
clipboard if you would, please?
Good evening. I'm George Cromwell. I'd like to thank you for hearing our variance request. Mr. Paras, who is the landowner, is excited about doing a project and excited about doing some a triplex for rentals that he can rent to maybe professional type people or whatever. But Fort Morgan does need the rentals. We're in dire need of them. And if it would be all right, we could even say we could strike number 4 on that one if you'd like, from the whole variance process, if you'd rather do that.
I'm not recommending that either, so, but you could give your presentation first.
Okay,
We'll just do the variance as it's presented in this public hearing.
okay,
So,
all right. Well, I think the diagonal parking would be really conforming to the rest of the parking that's there, as been said before. But I just think it would be a great thing for the city to have over there, and it'd add 3 more parking places for the city of Fort Morgan, too. So, thank you for hearing our variance request.
thank you. Next is public comment. Does anybody in the public wish to address council on this issue? Seeing none, I would ask the city clerk if there was any oral or written comments received by your office prior to this public hearing.
No, Your Honor, there were not.
Council discussion. Is there any discussion from council?
Your Honor, I think it's a great project, and with the specific scope of this variance, I thought they did a great job with the application. It answered all of my questions when I did my initial read. And really exciting to have, for me, it's a win-win with having that ADA space in that area. So I don't have any further questions or further concerns with how the variance is written with all the conditions.
Your Honor, I have a comment if you want me to go.
Please.
I met Mr. Perez way before I was ever on council, and I appreciated that he called because it's one of the oldest houses in town, historic, and I appreciated that. And looking at it and watching it through the years, it's just no way it could be saved. And it's an eyesore right now, and I think this is wonderful for a contractor to have the nerve to buy a place like that and to put an apartment there, something that really looks nice. And I think it's a great idea, and I commend you for doing it. I wish we had a lot of contractors, because really it helps clean up the inner city with blighted properties, to put something in there that's very useful. It's a great location right off of downtown, so people could walk downtown. I just think it's a wonderful project, and commend you for taking it on. Lot of work, and you have good people around you. So I just really commend you, and thank you for doing this.
I think it will look good and clean up the corner quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Takes it an eyesore.
Well, as far as the variance, adding the diagonal in there is contiguous with the entire block, so I think that'll be
Very nice.
and going up to the 9 as opposed to the 6 required on this is commendable as well. Are there any other comments from council?
None from me, Your Honor.
Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to close or continue the public hearing.
So moved.
Yep,
For which one?
close.
Who second? I have a motion by Doug Sashow, a second by Brian Urdiales to close public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Council action, Ms. Williams.
Yes, on page 14 of the, your packet, you have action requested by staff. Obviously, you're making a decision independently based on the factors in the variance, but if you were to make the motion, it's listed with the conditions that are listed on that bottom page of page 14.
You have that out.
Okay. I would entertain a resolution.
Your Honor, I offer a resolution to approve the application for parking variance at 229 East Beaver Avenue. And the variance runs perpetuity to the purpose triplex structure that diagonal parking spaces meet the code requirement from Chapter 20, Article 6, Section 20-6, 2070, including Table 6-2 for parking space design based on the parking angle, along with having the required ADA parking space, if not already, that the property owner is responsible for the striping, the parking stalls, and the material that is in the manner accepted to the city, including the maintenance for such along with all costs. That off-street parking shall be available to the public and is non-exclusive of the property. In addition to Section 20-3, 150A3, unless otherwise stated in the board's minutes, all variances must be implemented within 6 months from the date such variance is granted.
Second.
Thank you. I have a resolution by Doug Sasha, a second by Allison Howe. Vote by roll call.
That resolution carries unanimously.
You're approved. Thank you.
Great.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. That will be fun watching that.
Yeah.
You know when you're gonna start?
Pretty soon. Not sure yet. I still got to talk to Ron Green. I'm not sure. I was thinking if
I can
could be
re-say it.
tearing it down. That's how work is, because I got
You can
a
put that.
semi-truck
Oh.
and was in down, so you can tear it down. And take it away. You just got to get permits from the waste management in Bloomsburg.
Okay.
But other than that, we're rolling.
Good.
Hopefully,
Good.
next couple of weeks.
Good.
Good
Okay.
deal.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You bet.
Next is presentation on bids for the executive search firm to recruit candidates for the chief of police position. The request for proposals were sent out and received on the deadline. Susan Kirk received them, put them all together at the 4 o'clock deadline on the day of that they were due. We had a total of 7 sent in. 1 was a decline to propose, so we had actually 6 firms that had sent in bids and proposals for the search firm. I had Ms. Kirk sent Steve Glammeyer, Jared Crone, myself, and Doug Sashow to review them. We reviewed them individually, met and put together and reviewed all of them, and came up that it was KRW, the firm that had initially done the city manager position, met the 4 criteria that we had set forward to look at to make our decision. So we all came to a consensus that of the 6 that we received for the cost, Colorado connection, time frame, and staffing that they would be able to put together, they met all of those, and so it's the recommendation of the ones that had reviewed it that we go with KRW and proceed so Jared can go back to a peaceful life somewhat. So I would entertain a resolution or answer any questions that council may have regarding this. If there are none, I would entertain a resolution accepting KRW's position.
Your Honor, I offer a resolution to accept KRW as our executive search firm.
Second.
I have a resolution by Allison Howell, a second by Brian Urdiales. Vote by roll call.
That resolution carries unanimously.
And when we go and set this up, when they call to see what it is that we are looking for in a chief, Jared Crone and Steve, I would like to have them part of that. And we also talked about Jared utilizing his sergeants to have input with KRW regarding what they would like to see in a chief, in the chief position for what they will be recruiting for. I think it's important that the officers that are part of our police department have some input or say in what they're doing, since none of us are abreast of the needs of a highly specialized position. Not speaking for Doug, though. So, but anyhow, we will move forward with that, and I will get with you on the paperwork. Next is presentation on a resolution updating the signatory for the operations of the city-held bank accounts. Ms. Kinney.
Yeah, actually, Your Honor, I'm going to carry the ball for this one tonight. Jeannie was unable to be here tonight.
Okay.
So what you have in your packet here is a resolution. This is a housekeeping matter. Now that I sit in this chair as the city manager, we need to update the held bank accounts and the signatories that go with that. So you'll see my name listed in a few spots where Brent's name used to be prior to my seating in this chair. We've also added Chris Bostron to a few of those accounts as well, in case Jeannie's not available. Chris is kind of the second in command down there. Outside of that, I don't think you'll see any changes from what it was before. So be happy to answer any questions you might have about that.
Most of these require, except for payroll, require 2 signatures.
Yeah, correct.
Payroll requires 3.
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
Okay. Has everybody reviewed the signatory requirements? If there's no questions, I would entertain a resolution.
Your Honor, I offer a resolution updating signatures for the operation of city-held bank accounts.
Second?
I have a resolution by Lynn Deal, a second by Allison Howe. Vote by roll call.
That resolution carries unanimously.
Next is presentation on a resolution amending the schedule of fees to allow for collection of fees to be applied to the amounts owed. You're going to take that one,
Yes.
Nina? Okay.
Hello, everyone. Myself and Jason Orvis, the Municipal Court Administrator. This is a resolution just to amend the fees to allow us to charge collection fees. And I just want to commend Jason. He's been in touch with lots of different collection agencies. He's actually, we have 2 contracts with 2 different companies. He's going to see what's working best. He's working really hard, impressing me in his role. So just wanted to share that. So we just need to amend our fee schedule to make sure that we're charging the correct fees. And I'll let him explain the background on that.
Mayor, Council. After reviewing some of the different collection companies that we've used previously, the main one was Central Collection Services. It was state-owned, so they were a state company, and so that is the reason that the fees that Ms. Williams is asking to be placed on the bottom of the, on the packet that I suppose you have there, that is.
Page 42 of your packet.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So it had not been on there before because the state actually was able to just automatically do that. That was already approved by the state. It was agreed and approved on by the state of Colorado for anybody that works in the courts, district, county, municipal. We're covered. The independent collection companies or third-party collection companies need to have this wording and the authorization to be able to collect for the city of Fort Morgan on their behalf, or on our behalf.
So no changes will occur effectively to each defendant who needs to go into collection?
Correct.
Yeah.
So one of the companies asks for a 25% to place that on there. Doesn't necessarily mean that they will charge the 25%, but they can't charge any more than 25%. So we, as the city of Fort Morgan, the municipal court, would be whole with, let's say, obviously do the math, if they have a $100 bill and they do not pay the municipal court, it gets sent to collections. The collection company is going to charge them $125. We will still get back the whole $100 that we deserved. Therefore, the collection company then retains the extra 25% or $25. Currently, one of the companies that we work with is actually only 18%, which is what Central Collections was prior.
Okay.
Are these standard costs, or how do you determine them?
Yeah, that's determined by the collection company.
Okay.
We only ask for the costs and fees for the fines and restitution, whatever it may be, within the municipal court. After that, if the defendant chooses not to pay their bills, we have to actually send it on after attempts. It's over several times. And then at that point, if it gets sent to whatever collection company, they cannot charge any more than 25% on top of what the municipal court has asked.
Are these the same city by city or not?
Pretty close.
Okay.
Pretty close. I talked to Brighton, Greeley, Sterling, and then with listserv, I could see some of the other courts in, Breckenridge and along the Front Range and so forth, that they basically had this happen to them as well, and so they're using a lot of these other companies the same as we are attempting to do now. Central Collections pulled the plug about a month ago, and as of the 31st of July, they're no longer collecting. And they were doing OJWs and being able to collect with tax intercepts. So now we're kind of at a loss, but that's the entire state of Colorado's kind of at a loss on that one.
Okay, so this just gives us the opportunity to collect the collection fees that,
This is what we've been doing all along. This changes nothing. It just, as Jason explained, we had the authority through the state to do it. Now it's just adding to our fee schedule.
Then where does this money go? Because I don't know.
The the percentage
Yeah,
from
the money that you
it
get.
goes to the collection company.
Okay.
So it's a third-party collection company, and for example, if a defendant has a $100 bill that they did not pay with the municipal court, which is the city money, court costs, fines, fees, possibly restitution owed to a victim, we send that on to a collection company. Then the collection company charges the defendant an additional 18 to 25%. They retain what is above our total amount that we turned in. So nothing changes.
But the money that you collect goes into our budget, the court budget?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, other than the
Yeah.
additional fee that goes to the
Right.
collection
Yeah.
company.
any other questions?
None for me.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
I would entertain a resolution.
Your Honor, I offer a resolution to amend the 2020 schedule of fees to allow for collection fees to be applied to amounts owed in municipal court.
Second.
I have a resolution by Allison Howe, a second by Doug Sasha. All in favor, vote by roll call.
That resolution carries unanimously.
Next is discussion and possible council direction on the status of 2020 projects that were placed on hold due to the COVID-19 revenue impacts. Mr. Glanmeyer.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. Council, what you have in your packet, I've prepared a brief memo that speaks about capital projects that we, put on hold until we could determine how revenues might look for the city due to COVID-19. Pleased to announce that revenues are good. I was meeting with Kathy Schull today with Pro 15, and we were talking about it's good to be in rural Colorado. I think our friends in some of the larger cities or in communities where their revenues are primarily based on tourism traffic or something, they can't be as happy as we are today. We're seeing sales tax return numbers come back either higher than their month from last year or pretty close to even, but certainly no decline in those revenues. So that's nice, and we're glad for that. We're remaining cautiously optimistic that that will continue through the rest of the year. But I think we're at a point now to where we're ready to finish a few projects that we did put on hold while we waited to see what those numbers look like. We'll get June's returns next week. Maybe this week, but probably next week. And so we'll have a really good idea of those hardest hit months. But if they're anything even equal to what we expect, we feel really confident as staff that we could go ahead and continue some of these projects. I've provided a list of what was frozen. And you'll see that all of them but one is budgeted in the capital fund. The very bottom one is actually budgeted in the electric fund. What we would like to do is proceed with all of those projects except for the two that are labeled ED, the ED Feebig Road and the ED Gateway subdivision roads. Those are the two big ones on the list. The Feebig Road piece was tied to a project that's most likely not happening this year, so we may look to do that next year or the following year. Gateway subdivision roads, this is again a project where we would open up some ground for future housing. I'm not sure what the timing is on that. I think we should wait a little to see, and make sure. That's a big ask for $3 million, and I really think we want to make sure this impact is continuing, for us in a positive direction, not negative. So I think if we could get approval tonight to really move on all of the projects but those two, I think staff would be pleased with that, and we're ready to move on all of those. I've got several staff here if you've got specific questions about what those things are. But I think it's time to at least get those finished before the winter comes.
The new street design, that's the one for up by the old tennis courts.
Actually, that street's been designed, so new street designs, a lot of that is for in Center Point. We do have some roads out there that need to be designed. Linda Street extended up to what would be Bijou Avenue to open up that northern component. So there's some in there. And Brent, I can't remember, are there others or is that the big one? Oh, yeah, over by the middle school. That was the other one too. What's this street? Dual, yeah, Dual through that field. So, and tie into Education Avenue. That's one that we had on the books to get designed as well and built someday, so. We may be able to do those in-house. We're talking a lot about that. We've been able to do some of that internally. But if not, this does free up some money to get that done.
Yeah, I was just clarification.
Yeah, no, that's a good question.
That one,
Yep.
so, okay.
What is the Feebig house?
That's the buildings that are on the Feebig property that we bought. They're abandoned at this point. We just need to get them demolished.
Yeah, no,
There's a couple of them. There's one on the corner of Barlow and 34, and then one just a little bit west of there off of 34. Yep.
Tell us about the evidence room addition to the police department. I'm curious. I like it, but I'm curious what it is.
Exactly what it is.
Well, where
So our evidence room has grown so much over the last few years.
I was just over there. Where?
It's downstairs. It used to be in another part of the building. We outgrew that, so we moved it over to a different room in there. It's overgrown. We actually have to put stuff on the top shelf, which is in violation of the fire code. We spent last summer. You may remember Chief Schultz talked to the council last year about I think we got 5,500 items removed from the evidence room, and we're nowhere near having enough capacity. So we're asking to put a building on the back side of our detached garage in the back that would about double the size of the current room, and then allow easy access. We now use evidenceroom.com to dispose of our property. So there'd be a door there. They could easily pull their truck in and dispose of it, so we don't have to have people hauling stuff in and out. Be a little easier.
That's that room where you have to have your fingerprint to get in?
Yep, that's the room.
Okay.
That's the one, yeah.
Interesting.
Thanks, Lauren.
Are there any other questions about the projects we can answer?
PD car computers, does that outfit all the cars with this, or are we? I just wanted to see how far
works
you'd
for
get
me for
before-
We missed you, Lauren.
Might be different in a few months. So, yes, it does. It will outfit all of our patrol cars, 20 patrol cars. We were looking at phasing this in when I met with the company from CIS, which is the records management system. They recommended we do all 20 of them at once, gave us a discount of about $50,000 if we would do it at once. So we can do a large portion of our computers this year and then phase in a small portion the next 2 years to pay it off for his expenses. So we're going to buy the computers now and then pay for the software over the next couple of years as well.
That one, I remember doing some of that when I was on council before, so I was surprised not to see that, but got a good explanation why that was all. Anyway, I love my experience with your simulator training.
Oh.
I'm all excited about the police stuff.
Thank you.
You guys do a great job.
I think that's.
Y'all are invited too.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Not Doug.
It's really great. It's really an eye-opening. I love participating and learning the new officers. I met a new one today at Edwards, another Jared.
Yep.
Have a lot of
Jared.
and David. I met David and John. So good going there. A
Have
lot
you
of training though to do.
Yeah.
Have you thought about, I know a couple decades ago, we talked about carports on the ends of those. Keep hail damage down on police cars. I don't know. Did you check on that at all?
We haven't checked on that now. We had a lot of capital
Yeah.
projects. It has been something we talked about. We're also trying to figure out what to do with all of our vehicles. We have
Right.
a lot sitting in the back lot now.
Right.
More so than in the past. So we have a couple plans as to what we may do moving forward, but that's something we have
Okay.
considered.
Yeah. It was just a thought, especially we are adding on to the building. You know, 20 years ago, I had a budgeted for $20,000 to add on the bicycle garage there. And it was too much money back then. I'm thinking it's kind of ironic now.
Could build a shed now.
Right,
Are
right.
you going to bring back the bicycle policeman?
We have tried that. We hadn't had any interest. Then we were short-staffed for several years there. As we get full-staffed, I think we're going to try to reinstitute it. We just have to have enough people to be able to.
So Trevor's retired permanently from being a bicycle policeman?
Yeah, I don't think he's interested in doing that anymore.
Thanks, Lauren.
All right, thank you. Can I go back now? Anything
Yes.
I'll catch you on the way back.
Let's talk about the 3-yard loader that you want.
Okay, so I guess everything is what you're
Yeah, that's
requesting
good.
except for the two roads, correct? The four.
Yeah, that's correct. Everything but the two road constructions, the two big ones on there.
Well, they're budgeted for this year. I think our revenues are holding steady to where we're at. How's everybody feel? I'm pretty good with it. We need to get these done.
Yeah.
Concrete crushing, that benefits our road base strictly for streets. Demolition of the Feebig house, we can donate it to the fire department.
Very good
I
thought.
used to deliver meals to that house, to Mr. Feebig.
The 8,000 for the library museum, electricals, a drop in the bucket, the evidence room, that is budgeted for this year. The street designs, pretty healthy 3-yard loader.
I can tell you, we've actually gotten the bids on that already, and it's quite a bit less than that
Oh,
budget.
that's good.
So
Say,
we can,
275.
That's what I was going, what?
that one you'll probably see on the next agenda if this opens tonight, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Computers in the car, I think, is something is long overdue.
Yeah, that's
And the
great.
electric department roof on the complex. So,
No, Your Honor, I don't have any, I can support these because it's either public safety, utilities, infrastructure. And for these items, they're going to get more expensive if we put them off. So I'm happy to support moving forward with it.
so I guess you have direction. You are
Very-
authorized to move forward with those.
I think people
eliminating the two
stayed home more.
LED ones you
Spent money
had
on.
pulled off.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. I appreciate that. We can get those started tomorrow. So,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Next is 2020 or 2021 budget calendar. Mr. Glanmeyer and directors.
Yeah, so a couple of large budgets tonight. This is the Capital Improvement Fund for 2021 and the Conservation Trust Fund. We'll tackle the Capital Improvement Fund. You have that in your packet. I'll draw your attention first to the revenue side. We are budgeting, and you've seen this in other budgets, sales tax. We're budgeting a decrease of 5% just because of COVID-19. We're just not sure what that impact looks like for next year. I think that's a good move. I think it's conservative, but you just don't know. So I think a 5% decrease over what we have this year is appropriate. Outside of that, the revenues are fairly consistent. We balance this fund with a transfer from the general fund. So as we add all of the projects and ideas up, if we need additional funds over those tax revenues and other fees that we receive, we just transfer exactly what we need in order to keep the fund at a zero balance. So if you get to the list of projects, you can see there's many things on there for all of the different departments. I won't cover all of those individually. I will let you know that I did learn we do have the golf course pump station. It's about 2/3 of the way down on the list at $500,000. That actually will need to be $600,000. And then you can see the rest of those. Some of those we were talking about doing next year. We're actually able to do this year with the COVID-19 money that we received from the CARES Act. So you'll see those listed there in the note 2020 COVID. This is the computer station remodel at the Library Museum and the council video broadcast system in this room. We're able to do those with CARES Act money. We've confirmed that, so we're already moving on those projects as we speak. On the next page, there's a few items that are moved to the right, and we basically just removed those from the list. They're things that we could push off a year, so we went ahead to try to save a little money in a year that is a little uncertain. We just moved those off maybe to the 2022 budget year. So you can see the list there. Again, staff here to answer questions, but it's a good list. It's $6.6 million worth of capital improvements throughout the city, like I say, in various departments. And we're pretty excited to offer those up. I do know that I've had a few conversations about items that are not on this list. Councilmember Deal and I talked the other day, and there were a couple of items that we may want to consider for City Hall. Some deferred maintenance, if you will, of some of the banisters and things that are getting a little rough. I think we could budget some money in the capital fund to get those restained or repainted. And then storm windows for the outside of the building was also a desire. And so I'm happy to budget some money. We could look at getting a quote of what it would take to do that, but did want to throw that out. It's not on this list, but happy to add that to it if you all desire that. And I don't know if there was anything else from the group, but I think we're pretty comprehensive on this. But if there's something not on this list that you'd like to discuss, we can certainly talk about that as well.
I'm just curious, how old is the police department building?
86.
1986, I heard?
1986.
Okay.
I remember it was built when it
Yeah,
was built.
it's,
Still looks
well,
pretty nice.
the HVAC's been put off and put off. It gets pretty
Yeah, during the summer, a few times, it's
hot.
I think we've worked on that AC unit 4 or 5 times already this year. It's been down a number of
We think we got it going
times.
finally this afternoon after about a week and a half of getting up to 80 degrees inside. It's an ongoing thing. It's, I think Lauren had said anywhere between probably $4,000 and $10,000 a year for the last 7 or 8 years that we've been putting money into. And it's got to the point of, in less than 10 years, you just bought a new one. And that's where we're at this point. When construction in the basement happened in 2000 to put in a municipal court and the offices, for investigation offices as well, is when we started having these issues. These issues have been going on for 20 years now, and it's time to get something fixed.
Airport, is that for complete replacement of the AWAS system?
It is. That system is quite antiquated at this point, and we can't even find parts for it, so it's really limping along.
Well, I was wondering if it's not for limping it along more, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
If it goes down at this point, I don't think we'll be able to get it back up, is the big concern, so.
What about the runway? What's the 250?
It's for sealing, so just a seal coat of the runway, and 80% of that is paid for by the state. Yeah.
Okay.
What about the 225 for the healthcare?
Yeah, that's a good one, and I'm glad you asked that question. And I can let Susan speak to that if some, but I'll just tell you that we've been working hard on getting a healthcare clinic for our employees. And this would be something that we would partner with a group, and it would be available to the employees to go and get routine healthcare needs and keep them out of the emergency room. And I think we can show some return on that investment. But Susan, you want to talk a little bit more about how that program works?
Good evening.
Hi.
Hi. So this is basically a third-party provider. It's actually the same provider that Cargill uses for their clinic. Basically, it's a standalone clinic. It's available to all of our employees and their families. And we think that, and my experience has been with these clinics, that the return on investment is a decrease in absenteeism and the ability for our employees to actually form solid relationships with providers that are not going to be moving out of the area. So we have some information coming to us from Hub, who is helping us kind of maneuver through this. And I should have more information for you probably in the next month or so as far as the numbers go.
So where's this going to be located?
To be determined. It's going to be probably in one of our buildings that we have here already. The school district has met with us, and they are interested in partnering with us as well and splitting some of the costs. So,
So we could put it in Clint's office.
It's a good idea. He's not here.
Yeah.
he's not
What
here.
happens when you don't show up?
Yeah.
So the third-party doctors,
Yeah.
nurses would be paid for by the city and possibly split with the school district?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, that's basically it. We would do a build-out in one of our buildings. They have all kinds of different designs and layouts already kind of packaged together. They do this all over the U.S. So they know what they need as far as their design and their makeup, as far as waiting rooms and things like that.
So do you hire new doctors, or who
Yeah,
are,
the company actually hires the doctors. They have their own medical director that oversees many different clinics across the U.S. So they will be in charge of hiring their own doctors and bringing them in.
has there been any pushback from the hospital or some of our local clinics?
We've had some discussions with them before. And we've entertained and looked at some of the options that they have brought forward as well.
Some of them are full here. I had to go to Brush.
Yeah,
So this is exclusively to city employees?
and their families.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
potentially the school district. We're trying
And
to
the-
partner
and
with
the-
them. Yeah, and so to be clear, it is third party, so we don't get involved in the hiring of anybody. We're just providing a space. We're budgeting some money to create that space, and then we budget money annually to pay a fee for the service. And so we're hoping that if the school district can come alongside and partner with us, that annual fee will drop, and we'll all share that burden as a bigger group of folks. But it will be an annual appropriation that you'll see to pay that fee toward those providers.
And I've been involved in this very situation before in my last position, and we partnered with school districts and community colleges and things like that. So
we had a broader base and a lot of people that we served in the community, and therefore the prices were lower, so.
So what insurance do they use there, the city insurance?
There's no insurance with this. It's just paid through basically the budgeted money that we have, and there would be no fee to our families unless you were on an HSA, and there's a IRS guideline
So you
there.
would go there and it would be free for that kinds of stuff? You wouldn't
Yep.
pay anything? I see.
That's correct.
What's the ballpark figure of the fee?
Well, that's tough because, we got a fee, but it didn't include the school district's participation. So I'd like to, they're working the fee over again now that the school district
Okay.
has expressed their
Don't
interest.
want to shock us quite yet.
Yeah, I'd like to see what that really looks like with the full participation, if we can get the school district to participate.
And you're going to bring numbers back to us?
I will.
here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this 225 build out is just for a building?
That's correct. That's for interior remodel of a facility so that they've got the exam rooms and the waiting room and all of that, doctor's office and so on.
Yeah, it's a pretty neat program, and they actually do on-site pharmacy right there as well. So you see a doctor, you get diagnosed, you go home with your medications that you need for your sniffles, colds, coughs, and it keeps people out of urgent care and having, hitting our premiums. So that's what we're after. They have a lot of coaching programs too, like smoking cessation and things like that as well. So
it would help with the premiums then on?
Well, it's a soft cost, to look at absenteeism and to look at time away from work, that you would normally be in a waiting room or getting an appointment or being sick and not being able to get an appointment for the next day or whatever. These clinics, it's been my experience that they get you in same day and get you taken care of so you can come back to work faster.
And I think what we would do is, if this stays within the budget, we would come back to you with a complete presentation showing that return on the investment and what that looks like and what the costs are, the annual costs will be. We won't move on this project until we've got, full support to do so moving forward. But you'll have all of the complete picture before we do anything.
Because it would save on your premiums, but then you have that fee, so it might just be a wash.
Right.
actually.
Yeah, and I this is a project that was, started well before I was sitting in this chair, and so want to make sure that you have the complete picture and the financial impact before we do anything with it. But we're working on all of those details right now, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
No interest, Susan, from anybody else?
We have not reached out to anybody else yet.
Okay. That county has a big pool. I didn't know if,
Exactly. That would be a good target audience.
Yeah.
So,
Anything to draw the cost down.
exactly.
I had one other question.
Yeah.
What's the Main Street crossing?
Oh, I'm sorry, that should say Main Street Railroad Crossing.
Okay.
So this crossing right out here.
Right, okay.
We're actually forced into participating in that project. We don't have a choice. They did give us their railroad estimate, and they want to replace that crossing next year, and we, by law, have to pay a certain percentage of that, and this is our piece.
Right.
Yeah.
I just wondered where else we were having a crosswalk put in.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does that affect the, what do they do, put between is that the roadway between the rails?
It's actually, they're going to replace the actual rail crossing itself, put in concrete crossing blocks instead of the wood and so on, and then we're responsible to pay them to take care of all the roadway improvements up to that crossing, and that's our
Affect the
component.
quiet zone stuff?
What's that? No.
That wouldn't affect?
Doesn't affect the
Okay.
quiet zone at all, no.
Okay.
This is actually for this little spur right out here, the one that goes, into Erkers and others, so.
Okay.
Was there, I want to close the loop on the City Hall improvements. Are you all okay if we look to put some money for the deferred maintenance and the storm windows?
It's an old dilapidated building. You can do what they're doing over on Beaver.
Yeah.
We'll add
I
some
didn't
fun.
get to see Lynn's face on that, so, you know.
Very good.
Well, yeah, I think the buildings that are needing some attention need to be looked at and repaired. It only gets more expensive the longer you wait on it,
Correct.
so.
Good. Well, we'll add that into the list then. Is there anything else that you had in your mind that you don't see in here that?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Well, if something comes up, we still have time to tweak this budget, of course. So if you do have something that, you know, as you digest this, please let me know, and we'll be sure to work that in there. So.
Okay.
Then the second component to that is Conservation Trust, and I know Ty and Matt are here, and they may want to speak to these, but really this is revenue from the state lottery proceeds that we get every year, and then we try to budget in some improvements in our park facilities. And you see 3 projects listed there: an ADA playground for $200,000, and a large tractor and a spray cart for parks. And so if you've got questions, I think those guys can handle those for you, but that's what we had proposed for 2021 out of Conservation Trust.
Oh.
Which park were you looking to put the playground?
To be determined.
Okay.
Yes, would be the current answer. I have some designs right now in the works for J.C. Park, but then we're also having conversations about possibly a park and a splash pad near the field house. So all of that is currently kind of in the verbal process and diagnosis. I just got some designs on the splash pad today that I can share with Steve tomorrow on the computer. So I don't have a good answer yet.
Okay.
I see Matt, and I have a kudo.
Okay, let's finish up this
Okay,
item
okay.
first. Are there any other questions regarding this, or do you have anything else on this, Steve?
No, that's what we had for 2021 in Conservation Trust. So.
Okay. Any other questions or that for Steve or Ty?
None for me, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you. Next on the agenda is public comment or audience participation for items not on the agenda. Blake? No. Reports by officials and staff.
All right, Your Honor, we have several things in your table file tonight, but and you'll maybe hear some of these under bids, meetings, and announcements, but I do want to draw your attention to a few things. There is in here the RSVP request for the Fort Morgan Chamber Educators Welcome Event, so if you could please take some time before you leave tonight and fill that out. This is the annual welcome the new teachers, recognize the existing teachers and educators, and this will be held at City Park due to COVID-19, so they're going to have it outside on August the 18th from 7 to 8:30. So hopefully you're able to attend that. And then a couple of other exciting events. We do have the Gene Doty Senior Center that we're going to do three one-hour slots where we're going to have an open house and ribbon cutting event. The ribbon cutting will be the 3 to 4 o'clock slot. And so we'd really love to have as many of you to that slot as can make it. But otherwise, we'd be happy to know which of the 3 one-hour slots you're able to come and just tour the facility. We met with Gene and Rick in Georgia the other day, and they're very excited to have an open house and allow people in there to see that beautiful facility and tour that and meet Gene and thank him for his contribution to that project. And then we're working on plans to actually open that facility, by appointment and with limited use so that folks can go in and actually enjoy that and use it. So you can let me know if you'd like your RSVP and what time you can be there, okay? And I'd be happy to get you on the list so that you don't get bumped, and we can get you there. So, and then Sarah wanted to come up and speak about the groundbreaking for the new housing complex. Very excited about that as well. So,
Hi, good evening. So today we officially finalized the purchase and sale agreement. Our mayor came in, signed the forms, so the clock is officially ticking, and they will have their groundbreaking ceremony over there for Center Point Square this Friday at 3 p.m. It's a public event. I'm sure you guys have received the invitation already. Please let Steve know if you'll be attending so we can make sure that we have a shovel for you guys and a hard hat. But we're really excited about that. I also want to give an update on the Reopen Safe, Reopen Strong Business Grant. It is still available. We are accepting applications until this Friday. So if you come across any business that is interested and has not applied and is within the city of Fort Morgan, please have them apply or reach out to me directly. The applications are available online in English, Spanish, and Somali. So please get the word out if you come across anyone who's interested. Thank you.
I had a couple of business owners that had brought up about that. They can only submit it online.
It's only submitted via email, so they would scan it
So
to
they
me.
can't do it, just fill it out and bring it in, or?
If they aren't able to, I'm not going to make it harder for them, so please have them just drop it off at City Hall
Well,
if they're unable.
they were
But we,
talking about copying receipts and a lot
yeah,
of
and
the
just
additional
scanning it.
stuff.
Yeah, if for some reason it's difficult for them to do that, that's fine. We certainly want to accept as many applications as we can, so just have them drop it off at City Hall. That's where my office is at, so, yeah.
I can understand where they're coming from.
Yeah. So.
No, we're happy to take those at the office, and
Okay.
City Hall is open now, so we can certainly accept those if they'd like to drop them by, or we can come get them too. They can call us, and we're happy to meet them there too. So.
Okay, well, I think it'll do them some good to get some air, but I just had two of them
Sure.
specifically ask about that, so.
Yeah, no, have them drop it off, or like Steve said, we'll pick it up.
Yep.
Very good.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks.
Thank you, Sarah. So when you're out for the complex, or the new housing complex groundbreaking, if you have a moment, I can take you across the street and give you a little bit of a tour of the Field House project. So that Friday, starting at 5 a.m., they're going to start pouring part of the gym floors. And so by 3 o'clock, they should be basically finished with that concrete work, and you'll see some rather large slabs of concrete. But I can give you a little bit of a tour if you've got 15 minutes to walk across the street when we're finished. So let me know, and we'll be excited to take you over. But things are really happening at the Field House project for sure. So Ty's done a good job. He put a nice project update in your packet, so if you can read through that. We'll try to do some reports from various departments from time to time and let you know what's going on in our world. Had good opportunity to meet some folks. I met Kathy Scholl with Pro 15 today, and I got a chance to sit with Kristen and visit with her and various other folks. And Sarah and I are working on plans to start walking up and down Main Street and going into businesses and saying hi and introducing, myself to each of those folks. And so those are going to start very soon. But again, my office is here in City Hall, and always welcome to have people stop by and say hi. So it's been a good I'm going on week 5. So,
Wow.
Other directors, anybody else have anything?
Matt, I'd just like to say I've had numerous compliments on the golf course.
Oh,
Numerous. So tip of the hat to you and the guys at the golf course for turning that thing around. I know you took some heat at the beginning of the COVID closure, but you rocked it, and it's, come on up if you'd like. But yeah, I've had numerous kudos on the condition of the course and the greens.
While Matt's coming up, I'll tell you, I did have the opportunity to actually play golf, which I haven't done in quite a while, and it is spectacular out there. So I agree 100%. It looks so good.
Well, the cynic in me says, let's get 2020 done. It's a marathon. I don't want to be the guy who had the race winning the race 3/4 of the way through, and then we blow it in the last quarter mile. I can't take any credit for what's gone on out there. I'm fortunate enough to work with excellent guys who had a rough year last year, caught some bad breaks. We paid for it. At the same time, I work with top-notch mechanics who keep my equipment running between the parks and the golf course. Matt Givens, who I think's top-notch when it comes to talking anything agronomy. Eric Jensen knows what is a specialized irrigation system as there is out there. And I got great cemetery guys who've bought into the team mentality as far as the city goes, who've come out and helped me all along the way. We can't forget the street department coming out and sending someone out there for 3 weeks to help me auto zip. Brent, you know, and his guys dealing with last year getting the ditch water, you know, lined through. I mean, it's been a collaborative effort. If anything, I'm this small little cog who's, you know, shouldn't be up here taking the credit for the hard work of a lot of other people. But that being the case, I will pass it on. Team effort across the board. And then, of course, even to Ty, who's got to put up with talking to me on a weekly basis and my rants and raving about location of my rain gauge and my pony shovels, which I could not find anywhere. But again, I'll pass it along. We appreciate it. We just want to finish the race, you know, and that's what it's about. If we can go into next year ahead of the game, rather than trying to play catch up, I'm excited where we can go, which is why you see some of the things we're asking for with the pump station. Just so you're aware, it is a big number, scary big number, but I'll be able to produce the same results Steve was talking about as far as savings across the board, from chemicals to water consumption to utility rates to manpower, because we have a pump station that is hemorrhaging funds across the board right now. And we look forward to where we can go, and I guess that's a lot better than we were in 2019. So.
Well, if it's any comfort, your pump station isn't near what Brent's is.
And Matt, I want to add to that. Just today, I was at the grocery store, and Kenny McLeod just raved about the golf course and the work. And I know it takes everybody to do it, but there's been a difference. You're a good organizer. You're ambitious. You get in. I know from parks, and the flowers downtown are beautiful too.
Yeah, they're popping.
So you're good at pulling together and pulling it all together. But
And by the end of the month, we'll have a completion of a project you guys approved last year with the $100,000 Serenity Falls Columbarium expansion. We're starting to pour the concrete tomorrow on it. Footers are in. So we'll have a really showpiece there, which is going to provide stability for the next 30 years to take care of our cremation burials. So again, this is top to bottom, left to right, north to south, east to west. It's been a successful collaboration on a lot of levels. So.
And Ty's name was mentioned too with the kudos. So people really do appreciate it, and we're hearing it.
Do you help out with the Legion Field also? Just
do I what?
Help out with Legion Field also still?
I get asked.
That looks phenomenal. Well, that's really picked up too. So for Josh and all them.
Yeah, I mean, it's
for sure.
It's amazing.
They're good.
First and foremost, we've all benefited from COVID. When you can shut down activity on fields, even for the shortest period of time. We used to always say with like the baseball field, if we didn't play baseball on it, we'd have a beautiful product. The school district has made some changes in their practices and gone about some things a different way with it, which I think you're starting to see those results. And from one turf manager to another, I'll never sit there and bash or judge too harshly, because next year we can get some crazy things happening to us that we're fighting. Right now we're rehabbing and we're bouncing back. I just want to keep the karma in a nice positive place, right? And we'll go there. So.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, thanks.
Anybody else? I think that's it for me.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Bids, meetings, and announcement. Ms. Kugelmas.
None at this time, Your Honor.
Okay. With that, if there's nothing else to come before council, this meeting's adjourned.